Well, gang, back again. Today, the temperature in Carmel has been in the low 70s and is just yummy warm and making for beautiful plants and lots of warmth and sunshine. And somehow along the way, trying to conjure up what I might talk to you about next, either talking to Steve Hessel or to his mother, Mel, uh, the thought occurred to me that I might talk about what it was like uh, in the late 1940s and 1950s for a high school student to get a job during periods of vacations. And I know that my parents encouraged us to do it. My brother and I were very successful getting jobs. I don't know that my sister was as successful getting jobs because in the late 40s and early 50s, I don't think the world viewed women as having abilities. But now I look at the jobs that my sons had, and particularly the jobs that my stepsons have had and that my grandchildren have had. It reflects, and particularly the granddaughters, reflects in my judgment, the positive changes that have occurred. So I went back to look as best my memory would let me look on my career in the workplace before I graduated from law school. And most of this has got to have happened starting 1948, 1949. I wanted a bicycle very much. I discussed it with my father, and he said he would advance the money for the bicycle, but I would need to get a job, and the proceeds from the job would be used to pay off the loan for the bicycle. Seemed like a good idea to me. And somehow, some way, I ended up getting a job as a newspaper delivery boy for the Pasadena Independent, delivering the newspaper in the greater Altadena area, which was hilly country. So pumping a bicycle with loads of newspaper was very much a fitness challenge. As best I can recall, I'd be up at about 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd go to some designated spot, always the same spot, where the newspaper would have delivered the papers for me. And very quickly I learned my route. And so off I would go to deliver the newspapers. And I did this, I guess, for a year or 2 years. And it turned out that there was a hook because there always is a hook in a job. And that is that I had to collect the tuition, the fee for the newspaper. And so I would have to go to each person's home, and I had a book, and I would collect what the weekly charge or the monthly charge. Was $10. It was not a lot of money, but I would collect the money, and then periodically I would deliver it to my manager. The benefit that flowed from doing a reasonably decent job delivering the papers without many complaints and more importantly, collecting the money for the newspaper led to the end that each week I would be given 4 passes to the Washington Street movie theater in Pasadena. And so each weekend on a Saturday, Joan, Richard, and I, along with Aunt Betty Young, would walk from our house to Lake Street, get on the bus, ride down to Washington Street, walk over to the theater, present our passes. We would be admitted, and Auntie Maud always came up with money for something to nibble on during the show. Double feature, newsreel, plus a serial movie, usually a Western. And then we would walk back to Lake Street, cross over where there was an ice cream parlor. And again, Aunt Betty Young would come up with the money for a milkshake or a banana split or something incredibly yummy like that. And it made for a great weekend, every weekend. And my brother and sister were very pleased. Auntie Maud was very pleased. She enjoyed the movies. So that was my first experience with the job. I think the last 2 years of high school, which would have been 1949, 1950, I got a job as a letter carrier with the United States Postal Service, working out of the Altadena Post Office. This job was during Christmas vacation. So the regular letter carrier would stay in the post office and would sort the mail all day. And the goal was to make 2 full round deliveries to the route. The mail would be delivered by a post office truck to a blue metal storage container on a street corner, and I had a key, and I would unlock the storage container, and there'd be a leather carrier bag in there, and the mail that I was to deliver for whatever part of the route they'd put in that box. And then I would deliver that mail and come to another box, empty it, repeat the process, and move on. I was interested in playing football. I was interested in track. And so I ran the route, and I would hurdle over hedges and bushes. And I managed to deliver the mail to the route twice a day. And by the end of the employment season, I would also pick up mail that they wanted delivered. And at the end of my route, I would go back to the post office, deliver the mail to the mailing section, hand the bag to the route man, to the regular postman, and go home. But I began to find that I was getting Christmas cards with money in it from the people that I was delivering mail to, which was pretty cool. I don't have any memory now of how much money I was paid, but I do know that it provided me with more than enough cash to buy the Christmas presents for the members of the family. And I was very proud that I was so skillful and that I was able to hurdle the highest fences and all the rest of it. And so that got me started. The family took our two automobiles, a 1940 and a 1941 Buick sedans, to a family business owned by the Pintarelli brothers in Pasadena for auto repairs. And my mother, who was not shy about trying to promote her children, got me a job as an apprentice auto mechanic with the Pintarelli brothers. And I did this whenever they needed help. It didn't last particularly long. It didn't pay huge sums of money, but it was loads of fun to be doing something mechanical. And it really made me, be quite proud of myself. Somewhere in this high school range, I had developed some kind of an interest in the law. And my mother spoke to the head of the family, who had provided my dachshund, Johann Macduff Ginky. And the head of the family was a criminal defense lawyer. And he asked me if I'd like to be his assistant in a murder trial. And I've got to be, in my low to mid teens. And so I was allowed to sit at the counsel table, and I was allowed to talk to the defendant. I was allowed to see all of the evidence, which included very graphic photographs of a woman's nude body exhibiting very severe knife wounds. And I was allowed to examine the knife. And the trial went on for about a week. And it was a kind of a scary proposition. And I knew enough, I had enough sense of what was going on that I really didn't think we were going to get this guy off. And of course we didn't. But that was my first exposure to the law and to criminal law. And it was kind of a scary thing. By the time I got to my senior year of high school and graduated, my mother had approached a dear friend who was a member of the Panhellenic Society with my mother, which was a group of women who'd belonged to sororities at universities, and arranged to have her husband, R.W. Smith, of R.W. Smith Landscaping, hire me for the summer. In fact, for 2 summers, working as a common laborer. Most of the other people on the team were adults, mature. Most of them were of Hispanic heritage. They were all lovely people. And they taught me how to use a shovel. They taught me how to use a spade. They taught me how to dig holes for plants. They taught me how to plant a plant, how to use fertilizer. And I wore shorts and got myself a hell of a tan. And the R.W. Smith Company was a high-end company that worked in the high-end residential areas. And we soon ran into a problem where at many of the homes where we worked, they had high school age daughters. And the high school age daughters took quite an interest in me, in my shorts, perspiring with my muscles. And finally, the supervisor said that in the interest of my physical safety and virginity, would I please wear a shirt from now on? So my career as a landscaper didn't last very long at all. Somewhere in here, I ended up a junior at Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois. And when I came home from school for the summer, I ended up 2 summers working as an attendant in gas stations. The first gas station I worked in, I had a daytime shift. And in those days, you not only filled the car with gas, you checked the oil, you checked the water, you checked the tire pressure, and you, I forgot it. Lord, there was something else you did under the hood. And so that you would be involved with the customer, quite intimately. The second job was in downtown Pasadena, and I worked the night shift. And working the night shift, I was given very clear instructions with respect to what I did with the money. And there was a safe in the floor of the office. And except for a very small amount of cash in the cash register, the money went into the safe. And the gas station was open until 10 o'clock at night. And it was, I was always apprehensive that someone was going to try and hold me up. But finally, it would come 10 o'clock, and all the money would immediately go into the floor safe. And then I would have to clean up the islands in the service station. By the way, at that time, credit cards were in very low use. They were just coming in, so everything was pretty much a cash deal. And people often limited their purchase to whatever amount of cash they could easily provide. But I'd have to go out and put stuff on the ground and then take a big heavy broom and move this around to clean up all of the grease and the gasoline that might have been spilled on the station. I didn't enjoy the cleaning up the gas station and being there at 10 o'clock at night, but the job did pay a little better than the daytime job. And I was always anxious to have a little money to save to go back to college. Again, my mother appears on the scene. Mother made friends with everyone. And mother had no hesitancy about promoting her children and seeking employment for them. And somehow, while the war is still going on, she becomes acquainted with Waldemar Broberg, the colonel in the United States Army, graduate of West Point. And she got me a job for several summers at the Ordnance District, of which Colonel Broberg was the commanding officer. And I started at the bottom, but basically what I did was deliver supplies all day long to various offices in the district headquarters building. While I was delivering papers, I had the job that every young boy has: mowing lawns and washing cars. And the next door neighbor was particularly generous in that regard, Mr. Montgomery. And he would let me back up his Pontiac sedan as many times as I wanted, practicing how to back up a car. And then he would let me run his gasoline-powered lawnmower, and more money coming in. My last exposure to employment before I was hired as an attorney was in my early years at the Michigan School of Law, where I ran the switchboard at night. And I had to, and each telephone number, each room number wasn't a number. It was a code. It was dash, dash, dot, dot. And so, and I don't know how many hundred people were living in the Lawyers Club, but I managed to memorize all of the numbers and to call people. And if they weren't there, I took messages, and the messages were put in their boxes. But it helped underwrite the cost of going to law school. So finally, I'm in my junior year or second year of law school. And what everybody did or tried to do was to interview law firms from your home area who came to Michigan Law School to interview students. And the normal outcome of the process was, if they liked you, they'd offer you a job at the law firm as a law clerk for the summer. So McCutcheon, Thomas, Matthew, Griffiths, and Green in San Francisco offered me a job after my junior year as a law clerk. So I rented an apartment in San Francisco, and I wore a suit to the office, and I did research and wrote papers. And it was a very wonderful summer. And the hope always was that if you did a good job, the law firm would offer you a position with the firm upon graduation from law school, which they did. So now I'm finishing my senior year of law school, I have this job offer in my back pocket, but I knew I was going to be going into the military in January, and I'm graduating from law school in June or July. And so I asked the San Francisco office of the McCutcheon Law Firm if, pending my entering the military, I could clerk in their Los Angeles office, which was called McCutcheon, Black, Verlager, and Shea, and was one of the preeminent law firms in Los Angeles. And they hired me. They said, yes, it'll be fine. And when you come back from the military, you can either pick San Francisco or Los Angeles, whatever your choice. So now I'm really in good shape. And so in both offices, I did research, I drafted documents, I drafted pleadings, I attended court appearances as an observer, and got a little better feel for what the law was like. But that's what I did from somewhere around 1948 until January of 1958, when I entered the military. And it was loads of fun. And even though the jobs were not elegant necessarily, I felt like I was doing something worthwhile, that I was learning something that I might not otherwise learn. So I'm hoping that my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren have as much fun and as much success finding jobs during holidays, summer vacations, and all of those good things. Delight talking with you this evening. I'll try to get around to it next week. Take care. Love you all.